Citizens of Sadala, we have seen most of the cards in Saiyan Showdown now, and I can say without a doubt that I will be building Universe 6. I am keen on both Cabba and Kale, and I think there's some potential in the new cards to change the approach in building Kefla Surge, so I'm going to be building her as well. Building 3 decks of the same colour and within the same pool of cards could be potentially annoying though. A lot of swapping cards between decks, de-sleeving and all that. But there is a solution. I did this when I built Boo and Vidal. Both decks were using my Freezer Charismatic Villains, Dormant Potentials and the Boo Secret Rare. I had 2 sets of these Jiren sleeves lying around, so I used them for both decks and just swapped the cards between them. That made life so much easier, so I'll do the same with these decks. I have these Kefla sleeves, perfect thematic choice, so I'll buy another couple of packs of that and use them for all 3 decks. Alright, so as I record this, the set 15 secret rares haven't been revealed yet, though it wouldn't surprise me if they did before I finished editing and uploading this. So if they do, I'll record and put in at the end an extra bit to talk about that. But for now, we're mostly going to proceed with the idea that we don't know what the secret rare is to build with, except in instances when we're talking about playing with enough blue and yellow energy to play Spirit of Patara. And interestingly, this new Kefla card can cheat that out in the right conditions. Now, you can only do this when your opponent has 4 or 5 energy, and even then only if they have less than 6 cards in rest mode. Otherwise, Power of Patara will drop to costing 5 in hand, which is usually what you want, but in this instance, Kefla won't be able to target it. It's easy to forget that this counts as a Kefla card, as she is barely visible there behind Vegito, but it does. Her name is right there in the character traits. Anyway, if you're at the point where your opponent has 6 energy, you should be right to just play her for 5. It could put your opponent in a tight spot if they're on turn 5 and see that Power of Patara might be your play. Do they intentionally keep everything in active mode so you can't play it for 5? If so, that opens up the path for Kefla to cheat it out. And while we're talking about Unending Evolution, her other possible targets are Kefla Lightning Speed and Kefla Everlasting Light. Let's talk Cabba. A quick refresher on the leader. He drops to draw 2 and can awaken at 6 if he has a unison, which will be hit. Once he has awakened, he can untap a blue energy on the opponent's turn when he plays a blue battle card. He can also Spirit Boost to combo blue U6 from the drop with skills negated, so no shenanigans with Kale Awakened Sister, super combos, or Kefla Peak of Perfection. So you're getting value for playing cards during your opponent's turn. So this means arrivals, adding back the marker that got Spirit Boosted. It means counter attacks with battle cards. And it means Cabba, Proud Zenith. We also have this guy who plays after being used in a combo. And then we have 4 extra cards that are Universe 6 specific, one of which is only for Cabba. My first thought when I saw all the battle card counters was, it looks like a fun version of Blue Baby. And that sounds good to me. Interestingly, although the leader's era is Champa Saga, all the rest of the Universe 6 cards in this set are Universal Survival. I would have thought that all the cards that go with the Cabba deck would be Champa Saga as well. Obviously, you can use whichever cards you like in whichever deck, and there will be cards you do fancy in both, but more likely than not, you're going to want the counter stuff in Cabba and the Kefla stuff in Kale. So, should this deck be mono blue or blue yellow? Well, obviously, if you're putting the blue yellow cards in, it isn't mono blue. However, I don't think there is necessarily any reason to charge yellow with any of the cards we looked at, unless you put in Kefla Lightning Speed, who has an arrival, so you might want to. Your abilities are helping you combo with blue yellow cards, so you could get away with those being your only yellow. Super combo options for this deck will be the Sparking Cabba, Yellow Magetta, or Zamasu. I look to Sparking as an option because you can awaken at 6, and with all your countering, you will potentially be able to protect your life well, and so when you want to super combo, your life won't be low enough to use a 4 or less life super combo. As for Magetta, you can use him at 5 or less life, and he is yellow, so that's a bit of extra arrival combo fodder. And the same reason goes for using Zamasu for arrivals. Zamasu also helps if you are running Patara and you need 1 more of your opponent's card to be in rest in order to play it for 5. Alright, we've gone through some of the new cards for the deck, but what older options are there? Besides the usual stuff you'll probably think of first, like Sensu Bean and God Sealing Technique, just thinking for the moment of Universe 6 stuff. Even if you want to jam in a heap of generic blue good stuff, you're going to want a good core of Universe 6 or suffer consistency issues. So you might as well start thinking of Universe 6 good stuff. We have a fairly large pool of blue and yellow cards with Universe 6 trait at this point, so rather than scouring my whole collection, I've just gone onto Deck Planet and narrowed my search for these specifics. Just to throw out a few ideas, there is Hit Deadly Vanguard from Draft Box 5, Hit Flawless Attacker from the last set if you're wanting to run cards that require yellow energy. This card is super easy to meet the conditions to charge without energy exhaust. And then you might as well run Hit Rapid Movement from set 8 for easier arrivals outside of your leader ability. Because of Mentor's Rescue, we'll also look for Universe 7 Vegetas with Blocker. When you build with blue and yellow Universe 6, it's always a temptation to put in the Awakened Sisters, but not for this deck I don't think. We'll think about them again when we go to Kale. Okay, Kale. This girl is all about ramping. We have to get cards under her, and then she sticks them into energy at the end of her turns. Awakens at 4, and now she can ramp at the end of the opponent's turn as well, and if you have a lot of cards under her, that could make her stronger in battles. The unison to pair with her is Kefla. Her -3 is one way to get a card underneath Kale, and also gets out the big Kefla. After you've done that, you can play the Hit Unison or some other blue good stuff unison if you want, but definitely aim to have Kefla on board first. Kefla is the one helping us ramp. There's Universe 6 combination and Rapid Riposte. And in order to make this deck not too abusable, using her will lock us into only playing Universe 6, except for anything stronger than 35,000, so at least our secret rare options aren't limited. Kale Rampaging Demon also helps the ramp without that restriction, but you aren't getting her out without ramping until turn 5, so not likely. Our heavy hitter for the deck is Kefla Lightning Speed. Run her at 4 for maximum opportunity to get value from her activate main. We can play her a few ways with Arrival, which means she's also an option for Cabba. We can play her with Kefla's -3, or you can fuse into Unending Evolution and then use the activate main on that. Super combos for this deck I think go for Magetta over Cabba. You don't have the early Awaken, nor the drop filling capacity. Old cards to look at, and this time we can think about Awakened Sisters, but just remember, the new Kefla fusion doesn't care about colours, but the old ones need Kefla to be yellow. And some cards, like Brilliant Pairing Kefla, require a yellow leader. Kefla is pretty much my favourite thing to come out of Dragon Ball Super. In the game, the red leader was always one of my favourites, and so when they brought out Kefla Surge, I was excited to play it, but it's always been an uphill battle to play. There was concern at the time that a leader that counts as both blue and yellow would be overpowered, so I think Bandai were pretty careful to not let that happen, perhaps too careful. The leader has no draw power, and that puts it at a massive disadvantage in this game. Enter Hit, Battlefield Manipulator. Also helping along our hand size from the new stuff is Kefla Universe 6 Fusion Warrior, which also helps out with the Awakened Sister engine, though I'm not convinced that's the right way to go with this deck. Taking a look at the promos that were the original engine for this deck, we have Kefla Spunky Allure, Kale Enigmatic Beauty, and Kefla Everlasting Light, as well as the extra card Brace for Impact. The Keflas and Kales can be played for free before you awaken, and they get their skills from fusing. That's not to say you can't put the Awakened Sisters in this deck as well, but I think fusing into the new Keflas might be the spark this deck needs. And one more thing about Kefla Surge I want to mention is that with the display of the new alt arts in the Mythic Booster that was at the New York Comic Con and photographed for us by Jeffrey Shine, thank you to him, I noticed that there is a new art for Surge Broly, so does that mean Kefla will get a new art as well? I really hope so. The original is, let's just say, not my favourite. Plenty to think about across these 3 decks, so that will do it for now. Once I have my hands on the cards and have a built deck to talk about, I'll come back with another entry into this deck diary. So subscribe to see that when it's time, and also for some of the other videos coming up on the channel. I have some ideas and things that are almost ready that I'm really excited to share with you soon. Alright, I'll see you then.